On today's show, how the Ottawa Senators left 2 points on home ice against the New York Rangers, and concern mounts with Shane Pinto joining the injured list.
And we'll have a weekend preview as the Ottawa Senators try to sing a different tune up against the St. Louis Blues.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today is Friday, December 5th, and Pillsy, they are dropping like flies. Just when Ottawa felt like they were getting guys back from injury, now Shane Pinto joins a list that includes Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, and Lars Eller.
Yeah, this is getting concerning, Ross. Obviously, it's great to have your leader and your top power forward back in Brady Tkachuk, but when the rest of the depth starts dwindling down, this roster is not what it was meant to be. And you start poking holes in any team's lineup and it's going to crumble a little bit. Now, obviously, Thomas Chabot, big part of this team's decor. Artem Zub, a top pair defenseman. Shane Pinto, arguably one of the most important players on this team when you really look at his role and what that line produces and does, not just offensively, but defensively in the Amadio Pinto-Giroux line. So that line that's chiseled in stone, Ross, Travis Green's going to have to get out the chiseler. Is that what you call it?
Yep.
The chiseler. Okay. And scratch that out and find a new name to put there. So, and then you look at Lars Eller. Sure, that's a fourth line guy, but he's been really good for the Ottawa Senators in the role that he's had to play. So this is not how you want to return home from a successful road trip.
No, it's not. And losing 4-2 to the New York Rangers is just awful in terms of them getting more points than you. A lot of Atlantic Division teams winning. We'll touch on that a little bit later on, but the focus in the room can't be on that. It has to be on what the team needs to do to get out of this. Now, 3 losses in their last 4 games. And now you see a world where we can't talk about special teams being an issue because Ottawa, for the first time since late October, scored 2 power play goals last night. It just so happened to come in a game where they score 0 in regulation. I was listening to our good friend John Chick over at Locked On New York Rangers, and from their perspective, it felt like an Igor Shesterkin win, that Ottawa got goalied and that was the difference in the game. Do you buy that, or do you think there was more that Ottawa could have done to get pucks past them?
I think all things considered, Ross, the Sens actually played a decent game, in my opinion. When you look at losing Shane Pinto, who only had just about 5 minutes of ice time, Travis Green just decided, I'm just going to run Timmy and Dylan Cousins through the ground here. I'm not going to roll lines. Stephen Halliday only played, 6 minutes and 35 seconds. And the Ottawa Senators had chances. Like, you look at that Timmy breakaway where he blows a tire and runs over, or under, I should say, Igor Shesterkin. You look at Brady Tkachuk, had a couple opportunities. I thought he had a really nice play. It was a 2-on-1 with Timmy, and he tried to do a perfect pass off the pads. Timmy was tied up, and it didn't get in the right spot for him. Drake Batherson hit the post. Perron hit the post. Like, there was opportunities for the Ottawa Senators here. And then I know it's not that big of a deal, Ross, but when the Ottawa Senators penalty kill was 32nd in the league coming into this game, going 1 for 1, 100% is a nice little boost there too. So the special teams finally plays a part here, but the 5-on-5 isn't able to keep things tight enough to really hold this game off. Now, one of those goals obviously comes on the empty net for the New York Rangers, but it would have been nice to find a way to get a point here. But overall, I don't know. I'm not that disappointed in this one because it was close. The Sens had their chances, and you go up against a really good goalie in Igor Shesterkin, who had a nice night.
Yeah, and he had a good third period. That's where Ottawa did a lot of their pushing down 2 heading into the third period. They end up bringing it to within 1 thanks to Batherson's 10th goal of the season, but wasn't enough to get the win. And the second period doomed them. I know the score was only 1-0 in favor of the Rangers in the second, but they dominated that period, really took the life out of the building. The shot attempts were 25-11 at 5-on-5 in the second period. They got one extra one on that power play. So 26 shot attempts for the Rangers in the second period. Ottawa had 27 all situation shot attempts in the third period, though, to kind of balance things out. But that second period in particular was just not good enough. And in the third, you get it to within one. You've got the goalie pulled, and they were dumping it, but not really chasing. It felt like it was a bit of a discombobulated setup to go in with the extra man out there on the ice. They would try to almost get the blue line with control, which I like. And then they would chip it in the corner and it would just get cleared out right away. So that to me was something that you should key in on heading into the weekend, that if you do find yourself in a situation like they did when they were in St. Louis, where you got the goalie pulled, you're trying to tie it up, you have to be able to get an extended zone pressure. And give credit to the Rangers. They didn't allow that to happen last night, and Ottawa ends up giving the empty netter as a result.
Well, and similar to the St. Louis Blues game, Ross, I thought the Sens were just deciding we're going to dump it in and see what happens. And they were able to create pressure in that game, but not ultimately tie it up. And in this one, the Ottawa Senators end up getting hemmed in their own zone with the goalie pulled. And guys are diving all over the place. Jake Sanderson tries to block that shot from Panarin that ultimately goes in. When you're hemmed in your own zone 6-on-5 with the goalie pulled, I mean, you might as well just call it a game. Like, you're done. And the Senators have struggled, whether it's whatever man advantage it is, whether it's on the power play or with the goalie pulled, they've struggled to enter the zone. And that's why I think, Ross, they're resorting to that dump and chase, because they're like, man, if we're just getting stuffed at the blue line every time, we got to at least try to get that puck in there and then use our strategy that we know Travis Green deploys so much, as having that aggressive forechecking. So if we can't get into the zone with our guys like Timmy and Jake Sanderson that are usually so good at that, then we have to use our aggressive forechecking. And when it doesn't work, it ends up being a bad look for the eye test, because you're like, what are we doing? We're just giving the puck away. They're clearing it. We're wasting time here. So it's a tough problem to solve if your zone entries aren't happening, because that's what the Ottawa Senators rely on. Like, how many times on the power play or with the goalie pulled is it Jake Sanderson or Tim Stützle carrying that puck through the neutral zone almost every single time? And if they can't get it done, this team's not going to be able to find ways to get in there, because it seems like there's no other option other than those guys to carry it in.
Well, and a big reason then, too, why you're missing Thomas Chabot. Like, they pull the goalie with over 2.5 left, and Sanderson's already at almost 27 minutes at this point, and it's Clevin going to hound it behind the net and start the breakout with the goalie pulled, and that's just not the chair he should be sitting in. He had a great block, by the way, on the PK in the second period, so this is nothing against Tyler Clevin, but it just more so speaks to how much they missed that second left shot offensive defenseman. And when you're playing Spence with Sanderson, you're putting a lot of your offensive eggs in that basket.
Pretty much.
And when they're not on, when they're not on the ice, it's not as easy to move the puck up to the forwards, and that can mess up the rhythm of the team. So super unfortunate there. Pilsy, with Batherson's goal in the third period, he ties Tim Stützle for 10th in franchise history. We had that conversation during one of the extended breaks between games. Who would get to number 10 first? Well, Timmy got there. Actually, they're all still tied with Erik Karlsson, but they both played less games, so they move ahead. So 3-way tie for 10th now in goals in Senators franchise history. Brady Tkachuk with an assist. He moves into sole possession of 5th with 411 points. Senators captains have the first 5 spots on this list. Alfreton, Spezza, Karlsson, Yashin, and Brady Tkachuk. Those are your top 5 all-time points leaders for the Ottawa Senators. So those are the historical moments that happened in last night's game. 2 assists for Jake Sanderson as well. Gives him 150 career points. Did you know that at 23 years old, Jake Sanderson is 5th all-time in points by a Senators defenseman? Only Chris Phillips, Thomas Chabot, Wade Redden, and Erik Karlsson have more.
Yeah, I mean, he's climbing that ladder very quickly, and we always were saying that was going to happen, Ross. You and I always believed in Jake Sanderson's offensive ability. We had people telling us when the Sens drafted him, and even before when he was entering the draft, that, hey, this guy's a great skater and will probably be good defensively, but we just don't know if the offense will pop at the NHL level. We always believed it, and here it is. He's sneaky this year, third on the team in points with 23 points in 27 games. That's elite for a defenseman. He's only 1 point back from Stützle and Batherson for the lead in this team's points. And you talked about the forwards, Ross. I want to see half of the top 10 spots in Senators' career points leaders taken by this era of Ottawa Senators. Like, I want to see Brady, Timmy, Batherson, Pinto, and
Stützle. I guess he said,
yeah, I said, and Sanderson. I think Sanderson can get up there, right? Like, where?
Oh, sure.
How many points away is he now? I mean, a couple hundred probably.
Well, yeah. He's still got a ways to go there at 150, but still fifth among defensemen is wild, considering he's only played 263 games. To put it in perspective, obviously a little bit different portions of their career, but not too much. Chara, who he just passed, 4 more points now than Chara had with Ottawa, and he did it in 36 less games. So that's the kind of guys who he's sitting around at the table with in terms of career. His next point will move him into a tie for 33rd with Mika Zibanejad, who scored a goal against them last night. But if you look this season, Pilsy, in the National Hockey League, only 7 defensemen have more points than Jake Sanderson. So he is producing a ton of offense, and the power play getting going. Great to see last night for the Senators. A man who is on their top power play unit, Shane Pinto, is out, and Travis Green just confirmed he will not play tomorrow. So will we see a call-up? Maybe. If we do, who will it be? And we'll look at how we'd organize the Senators' lines now without Shane Pinto. There is a sliver of good news in the injury notes. We'll get to that next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Guys, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets, that's usually the hardest part, especially for a big event like this. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track prices dropping in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. The seat view feature, that's a game changer. You literally see what the pitch is going to look like from the exact seat before you buy. Prices include fees up front. I love that. No last second surprises at checkout, and alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So don't miss out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time.
All right, Pilsy, we will be looking ahead to the weekend in just a moment, where the Ottawa Senators will continue a 3-game homestand against the St. Louis Blues. It is a 7 o'clock Sportsnet game as we look to get back in the winning column. Senators will wrap up that homestand next Tuesday against New Jersey before embarking on a 3-game road trip to Columbus, Minnesota, and Winnipeg. Pilsy, we know that Thomas Chabot will be out about the next 10 days, maybe 9 now, because Travis Green did say that yesterday. Chabot has missed 9 of the last 10 games and only came back to play against San Jose, where he had to leave in that game after re-aggravating the injury. Zub, Eller, new additions to the injured list. It seems, though, that Artem Zub might be able to return on the weekend. Would obviously be a huge boost on the back end.
And that's massive, Ross, not because of the direct impact it has, in my opinion. Obviously, Zub having a great offensive year too, and that pair of Sanderson Zub is Is it crazy? I just popped in my head. Is it crazy to say one of the best pairs in Sens history? I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah. So there, I said it. But what it does, Ross, is you just talked about it. It allows Jordan Spence to go back down onto that second pair with Tyler Clevin to have a puck mover, not just on the top pair. And I think that's a bigger impact than just bringing back Sanderson and Zub, because Jake Sanderson, he's the best, man. Like, he can play with anyone. He's proven it. He's had to play with less than formidable partners in the past, and he's been able to carry his D pairs no matter who's there. So I'm not concerned so much about, oh man, we need Zub back so he can play with Sanderson. It's more that bottom four of Tyler Clevin with Martin Powell, which should be your third pair, and then Dennis Gilbert and Nick Jensen. There's no puck movers there. I mean, Jensen, you could argue, we hope he can return to being at least a better puck mover. Like, he's not just your big physical shutdown guy, but that's just not been the case this year, unfortunately. So getting Spence down and balancing out that bottom four a little bit is the real game changer here. So I really hope Zub is back in the lineup tomorrow.
Meanwhile, less likely that Lars Eller will be able to return tomorrow. And interesting that Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, he keeps going back to this. Every time the Senators are brought up, his big story for the Senators right now is that Stephen Halliday being up with the team has a lot of eyeballs from around the leagues focused on what kind of NHL player they think Stephen Halliday could be. And we know the Vancouver Canucks are in a bit of a fire sale situation, dead last in the National Hockey League, waking up this morning. They want centerman. And he went from Ottawa and talking about Halliday to talking about the Canucks. So just something to keep in the back of your head. I don't want them to move Halliday. Obviously, we're a little biased on this because he's an absolute beauty, great friend of the show. But the thought process would be, look, you've got your top three centermen locked up. That's not even including Ridley Gregg, who's a natural center and been playing the wing. What would the role be long-term for Stephen Halliday if and when he's ready to play in the league?
And Ross, we already saw this. Steve Stais dealing his assets from a position of strength. Zach Ostapchuk, right? Similar spot, who was a guy that you could see being a third-line center one day. He got some time as a fourth-line center in the NHL to see how things go. And you just know, like, this is a nice player, but he's not going to fit in our system with having Timmy Cousins now and then Shane Pinto signing that extension. Like, there's just not a spot for him. And I know you could move Halliday to the wing, but I don't love that. I think he should be in the middle. And I know it sucks to say, but the Ottawa Senators don't have a lot of trade chips. Halliday is a massive trade chip that they could have because teams could look at him and see the potential and think, hey, maybe we could buy low, if you will, and this guy could end up being, I think Stephen Halliday could be a really good third line center in the league one day, in my opinion, especially you get him with a sniper on his wing. We know he's a disher, so he can set those guys up. So it's no surprise that Halliday is the guy that Elliot Friedman keeps saying is kind of the Sens' big trade chip here.
Yeah, no doubt. And you'd think the Senators would be less inclined to trade Ridley Gregg, who'd be another guy that teams would be calling about, saying, hey, like, where does he fit in with you guys right now? Like, he's on the fourth line, or had been, with Shane Pinto's injury. That's likely to change. But curious season. Obviously, you give a guy a few games when he gets back before you really start kind of needling into their performance, but I do think they need more from Ridley Gregg. 2 goals in 22 games, Pilsy. Like,
yeah. And just quickly on Gregg, though, I don't think now would be the time to trade him for 2 reasons. You'd be selling low. Like, Ridley Gregg, like you just mentioned, has not been very good lately. Unfortunately, he did have that injury that kept him out of some games. So I don't know, maybe he's still dealing with a little bit of that. I'm not sure. But also, you want to keep Ridley Gregg as your insurance safety net for the times when one of these centermen, unfortunately, might go down with injury, like Shane Pinto right now, because Ridley Gregg, in my opinion, is better as a winger. So you have him as a winger that can move up and down the lineup on the wing, which we've seen him do this year. And then if, unfortunately, there is an injury at center, he's a nice guy that you can slide to the middle and feel okay about that. So I think he's more valuable to the Ottawa Senators right now, especially with him not playing well, than he is as a trade chip to try to move somewhere else and bring in a top guy. But you got to move some money out if you're going to be bringing in a top 6 impact guy. So for me, the only options really are Greg, Perron, and possibly Zetterlund. But again, I think Zetterlund is a bit of a sell low candidate right now as well.
No, I think that you might have found something too with that top line. I know they didn't score last night, but I do like the way that they're playing together at 5-on-5. Just a side note too, Zach Ostapchuk, 0 points in 21 NHL games since being traded to the San Jose Sharks. He's got 3 goals and an assist in the AHL this year after going pointless in the playoffs in the AHL last season. So maybe that would give a team pause that they're like, oh, well, the last team that traded for a guy who they thought was going to have more potential to step into the NHL right away didn't work out quite so well. But I will
say, though, Ostapchuk was never going to be a big points guy, right? Like, I don't think we looked at him and we're like, oh, he's going to rack up points. No. Whereas Halliday, you see the vision and the playmaking, and you can see how he could get a lot of assists, especially with his body size and his ability to shoot the puck and get into the slot and battle defensemen for those hard to get areas on the ice. Whereas Ostapchuk, for me, was always going to be a checking, not necessarily grinder, but more of a two-way guy. So I think there is a bit of a difference there, but I see your point for sure. And I mean, both of these GMs are probably like, man, I did not get the player I was advertised to get here. Although Ostapchuk very young, so you got to give him some time here. But kind of funny how that worked out.
I think he's only 3 years younger than Fabian Zetterlund, right? Like, he was a 2021 draft. So
yeah, but I mean, you look at games played in the NHL, like
totally. Yeah. But hey, let's see how that top line keeps cooking along, and let's wonder up next if there is a recall for the Ottawa Senators. Who should it be? And there's a reason why we might know sooner than when the roster move is officially made. Plus, a weekend preview against the St. Louis Blues. And will there be any Sens prospects, the World Juniors? That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch. Let's be honest, guys. Most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're all worth. Between 401ks, saving, investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. Don't do that. That's why there's Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's going to help you organize your accounts, track your spending, and get a better handle on your investments. And you don't even have to touch a spreadsheet. You're going to love that you can review everything with your partner, see your shared goals, and make better financial decisions together. They've got visual dashboards and smart tools that make it so much easier to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder for you. So in this economy, do not let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
All right, Pillsy, weekend preview in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's discuss the Senators lineup and how we think they'll be able to withstand the loss of Shane Pinto. No easy feat. Pinto currently leads the Ottawa Senators in goal scoring this season. He's got 12 of them, while also being one of their best defensive players. He's also been incredible in the faceoff dot, winning just about 54% of his draws. 16 of his 18 points have come at even strength, including 11 of his 12 goals. So huge hole in the lineup now. And we think it's going to be as simple as moving Ridley Gregg from the fourth line up to play third line center between Amadio and Giroux.
Yeah, I think that's the right move, Ross. I just talked about it. Greg is that guy that can do that for you. And for that reason, I'm going to be locked on to Ridley Gregg in tomorrow's game because this is a huge opportunity for him. He's got big shoes to fill with Shane Pinto. But in my opinion, Ross, he's set up for success here. Like Michael Amadio, you've been really happy with the way he's been playing, and rightfully so. And then Claude Giroux, you got a stable vet there. So you're put in a good spot with those guys as your line mates. And it's nice in the faceoff dot. Claude Giroux can handle a lot of the responsibilities. Not that really Greg's been terrible.
No, he's been good, man. He's 56%, but
Yeah.
hasn't taken many since coming back from injury. In the 3 games since coming back, he's 44%, 8 for 18.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't trying to dog on Greg for the faceoffs, but when you have arguably one of the best faceoff guys ever, it's nice to have him on your line if you're just moving back to center and you've been playing wing for most of your time here. So I think that's a good spot for him, and I want to see really Greg succeed. So let's hope that this can be a big boost for him.
Yeah, love that. And that would leave the 4th line with Curtis McDermott coming in. The only extra the Senators had with the 4 players now, including 2 forwards on the injured list. But Travis Green did say that he may call up a forward from Belleville. Now, the reason we might know sooner is that Belleville does play tonight against the Laval Rockets. So we'll be looking for any late scratches, like what happened with Stephen Halliday in the last game, and then ultimately they come up. I really think it comes down to a decision of 2 players, Arthur Kaliev and Ole Lycksell. Both guys have played already a game or 2, or I think in Lycksell's case, maybe even a few more games in Ottawa this season, but I just don't see anyone else being ready to come up and play in the NHL.
Not Hayden Hodgson?
I mean, you could, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can bring Hodgson back up. I'm okay with that. But I think that
I've got him lower on my list just with the needs that I think they have with the injuries out. For me, Ross, I would rank it Lycksell first, Kaliev second, Hodgson third.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I did forget about Hodgson. So that's a fair point. He has shown that he can come up and play 7-8 minutes. But I think that if you're looking to build a track record within the AHL group of you earn your call-ups, I mean, Arthur Kaliev kind of has to be the guy then. The guy leads the league in power play goals, leads the league in shots. I mean, this to me is a guy who's chomping at the bit to get another opportunity. And he's got 1 goal or 1 point in 2 games so far this season in the NHL. Like, I think that this might be the time to give him a call. The only reason why I would hesitate would be that he needs waivers to go back. So is Shane Pinto going to be out for just a game or 2? Is Lars Eller coming back soon? Those might be questions that are asked before the decision is made of who you want to call up. Because if it's Hodgson, I think they'd be very okay and comfortable getting him through waivers afterwards. And that could open up. He might not even need waivers yet, but I know that Ole Lycksell and Kaliev have been over a month since they did clear waivers. So if they either got called up, they would need to go through the league waivers before going back down.
Yeah, I see your thought process, and it's definitely fair, Ross, but I'd be too nervous about losing Kaliev on waivers. He's so hot right now in Belleville. Let him stay there. And he's a one-trick pony. Now, that trick is pretty fantastic, and he does it every night, scoring a goal, which is great. You want to see that. But I just think Ole Lycksell has a better all-round game, and I think that's what they need on the 4th line there. And I don't know how you're going to squeeze him into your power play units. Now, with Pinto out, that's a guy that's not going to be on a power play unit. So I guess technically there's a spot there, but I'd like to see Zetterlund get that opportunity now that he's heated up. So I just think it makes a lot more sense to bring up Lycksell. And look, that's a guy I don't want to lose on waivers either. I think he's valuable to this organization, and he's a good AHL player and serviceable in the NHL. And I think there's a reasonable chance that he could get claimed. Is it high? Probably not, but less than Arthur Kaliev right now. So for my thoughts, I really think Ole Lycksell is the better choice here, especially if, like you mentioned, we're uncertain how long it's going to be. Like, imagine bringing up Kaliev and you only need him for 1 game, then you lose him on waivers. Like, oh, what a kick in the pants that would be. I mean, we already lost Sabrango, a guy that would be useful right now to waivers. So it does happen.
Yeah, Kaliev has 8 goals, 13 points in his last 10 games in the AHL, and he has at least a point in 17 of his 21 AHL games this season. So if you're going based on merit, it's probably Kaliev, but if you're going on need, maybe you go Lycksell or with Hayden Hodgson. Let us know in the comments who you want to see get called up, or do you want to see Curtis McDermott and his 6-1-2 record when he's in the lineup get back there when the Senators take on the Blues? We expect the lines to go Stützle, Tkachuk, Zetterlund, Cousins, Perron, Batherson, and then it's anybody's best guess for the bottom 6. On the back end, Sanderson, Spence, Clevin, Matt-Palo, Gilbert with Jensen, and I'm not putting Zub in until it's official because I don't want to jinx this. the Senators could really use Artem Zub in the lineup tonight. So the Senators tomorrow night, I should say. I'm fired up. I want to get that taste out of my mouth from the New York Rangers game. I know they played okay, but just the result at home, and it was a bit of a sleepy crowd, and they didn't really have much to cheer about when you go down 2-0 early, never led in this game, and it was only tied for 3.5 minutes. Tomorrow's opponent, the St. Louis Blues. If you feel like you just saw this, you did. Senators will end the season series against the Blues after losing in the third period to them against last Friday, that random 3:00 game on U.S. Thanksgiving. And the St. Louis Blues now, they're on an Eastern swing. They just got crushed by the Boston Bruins last night. 5-1 was the final score there. Robert Thomas, their top line center, is between Braden Shen and Jake Neighbours. Second line of Pius Suter with Dylan Holloway and Jordan Kyrou. The third line, Dalibor Dvorsky with what you got to help me with this first name, Pillsy. We got a real Finn here on our hands.
Alexanteri
Kaskamaki
is my guess. Yes.
And Pavel Buchnevich playing right wing now on the third line. He was in the top six when they played last week. Fourth line, Oscar Sundqvist with Mathieu Joseph and Nick Bukestad. On defense, Philip Broberg with Colton Parayko, Tyler Tucker with Justin Falk, and Cam Fowler with Logan Mailloux. I would expect Jordan Binnington to start in goal. Just beat Ottawa last week, but he was in goal there in Boston last night. So we will see. Your lookout player for the St. Louis Blues, Pillsy.
My lookout player is going to be Jake Neighbours. He's been elevated to that top line up with Robert Thomas and Braden Shen. This is a sneaky good player that I think often gets overshadowed by the Kyrous, the Thomases. But last year, he had 22 goals and 46 points 22. Yes, I was right there in 82 games. So that's a nice season for him. And then the year before, he had 27 goals. So this guy can score. So I'm going to be looking out for him on that top line.
Yeah, he's very, very skilled, but big player and going to be tough to knock off the puck down low. So I like that call. And when you add Braden Shen with Neighbours on that top line, that's a heavy line that they didn't have last week when they played Ottawa. So curious to see how that looks, just shifting Thomas away from Kyrou and really spreading out both the skill and the physicality more throughout the lineup. My lookout player is going to be Colton Parayko. He had a great assist to David Perron. Still thought they were playing in 2019 together in the third period in St. Louis, but he, to me, is just that guy that I think fans of the team that cheer for him are always wanting a little more physicality just based on his size, but he's just not that player. He's smooth skating, going to be on Team Canada at the Olympics. I'd be shocked if he isn't, especially when you connect the dots that his GM in St. Louis is one of the men picking the team in Doug Armstrong. So Parayko was great with Josh Morrissey at the Four Nations. He's got Philip Broberg, obviously not the same caliber of player as Morrissey, but they need him if they want to win on the road because he's a guy who can get in lanes and disrupt with that long stick. And I think if Ottawa's going to win, the rest of this decor is gettable defensively. Like, they aren't the biggest guys. Tucker's a big guy, but not really a guy who you're intimidated by in terms of getting offense's own possession against. Parayko, to me, is the guy. You break him, you break the dam. So I think that with the forechecking style that Ottawa's trying to play, go target the biggest guy back there, put him on his ass early in the game behind his net when he's going to get a puck, and then maybe the shoulder checks get a little more often and the panic sets in because Ottawa is going to have to play a lot more in the offensive zone than they did against the New York Rangers.
Yep, and with the Sens being at home, Travis Green is going to get the line matches. I want to see that Timmy Brady Zetterlund line up against Parayko and Broberg every single time. Use that speed that Timmy has, and Zetterlund can fly out there too. And then you've got Tkachuk, bigger body that can hopefully hang with Parayko in front of the net. So I think that's the way you want to do that. But one thing I noticed, Ross, looking at the St. Louis Blues lines and time on ice in their last game up against Boston, Montgomery is rolling the lines here. This is so opposite of what the Ottawa Senators time on ice looks like. Braden Shen led the forwards in time on ice with 17:59. The lowest time on ice was Sundqvist with 12:01. Very different compared to the Sens. And then on defense, Broberg with 21:13. led them with time on ice. So they're rolling the lines here. And when you have a team like St. Louis that they've tried to spread out some of their big players, you got Thomas on a line, Suter on a line, or Kyrou on a line, and then Buchnevich on a line. They're trying to spread that out. They're going to have a lot more energy when it comes to the end of the game. And what have we talked about? How poor the Ottawa Senators have been in the third period. So this could end up being a track meet where if it's close, the St. Louis Blues could run away with it and just hold it down, kind of like what they did in the last game in that third period. So I'm a little nervous, especially with the injuries, that Travis Green's just going to work Timmy and Cousins and Sandy, and we're not going to be able to hang with them physically, and they're going to have tired legs come the third period.
Thing with the St. Louis Blues, though, is it feels like they'll always allow you to get back into a game, right? Like Ottawa had their chances. They didn't play very well last Friday, but they still had their chances, and they still got it to within a tie in the third, right? So you need to get on them earlier than that and make it a game where they're chasing you, because when they're trailing going into the third period this season, the Blues are 1-10-1, 0-4-0 on the road. So
the only win was up against Ottawa then, right?
Were they trailing, or was it tie going third? No, they were trailing. Yeah. So
Ottawa was winning 2-1. I know that specifically, Ross. Let me tell you.
So that's their only win when trailing after two periods this season. When the opponent scores first, the Blues are 2-8-1 this season. They have 7-4-6 when they score first. So try to get the first goal and go from there, because it cannot be a repeat where you feel like you did enough to deserve to win against the Blues last week, but it didn't happen. Then the Blues are not a team that is really, or that should be beating the Sens twice in the season series. The Blues are 2 points out of last place in the National Hockey League right now. They wake up today with a 9-12-7 record. So if you're Ottawa, get on them early, be hard on pucks, and stay disciplined, but it's also worth noting that Ottawa's PK went a perfect 3-for-3 against the Blues, and the Blues power play is only 1 for their last 22 opportunities. That's a span of 7 games. They've got a -5 goal differential. They're 3-3-1 during that stretch. So I'm really nervously excited for this game, because I do think this is a spot where the Senators need to find 2 points.
Yeah, I agree. I'm close to calling it a must-win game, but I'm going to hold off. But it is a very important game. And to add another key to victory here, Ross, try to get Jordan Binnington, if he's playing, off his game. He is a hothead at times, and he can focus too much on being like, I got to get my revenge. I'm going to shove this guy in front of me because I'm sick of him. And then he's not in position for shot deflection or to move side to side in the crease.
Well, last season, he tried to fight Linus Ullmark, right?
Yeah, and Linus Ullmark almost got into a goalie fight this year too. Ottawa's
done really well against St. Louis at home. You think back to that 8-1 win last season, and you go back a few years ago to the game where it's now very mainstream, where Brady cut Claude Giroux's sticks. Yes. That was a 7-2 win at home against St. Louis. So they've had their number in Ottawa, and we'll see if they can continue that.
Yeah. I know it was country night last night at the CTC, Ross, but I want it to be Song 2 night tomorrow at the CTC.
Same. Yeah, give me that Via Rail horn over and over and over again. All right, Pilsy, World Junior rosters are coming out, and Team Sweden just named their preliminary 26-man roster that included 8 defensemen, and none of them are named Gabriel Eliasson. And I don't think that's a huge surprise. Eliasson's game translates not so strongly to international hockey, where they are extremely tight when making calls. He is a guy who gives you a lot of physicality and a lot of shorthanded opportunities. I went and looked.
Shorthanded opportunities. I like how you spun that, Ross. Yeah, this is our opportunity to be shorthanded here.
Yeah. He's played exactly 100 OHL games now. He has 9 points, a -2, and how about this? 184 penalty minutes in 100 games. That's including his 16 playoff games that he played with Barrie last season. I don't know if he's still suspended right now. He was, but they're in Ottawa tonight. So maybe take a look at the rosters and go see if you want to go check out Big Gabe down against the Ottawa 67s. Do you know if he's still suspended? I feel like he got a few games.
His last game was November 29th, so I'm not sure where that leads him. I'm just looking at his game logs there.
It was just a 2-game suspension. That's
just
all.
A little break for Gabe.
Just a little break, hey? Yeah. Just a little break for Gabe. But it got us thinking, like, what's the Sens prospect pool look like at the World Juniors? We think they've got a reigning champ coming back. Be shocked if Logan Hensler's not there. So that's a great sign. Love it. Home state game for him too in Minnesota, near the rink he went to go watch hockey growing up. He's obviously having a great start to the season with Wisconsin. They've overperformed versus expectations. But beyond that, I mean, that might be it, Pilsy, for the World Juniors this season.
I mean, that is it. Let's be honest. Like, this is why I know everyone's on the train. Hey, let's trade the farm. Let's get top players in here and let's go for it, which I get. That's fine. You got to try to decide, hey, is this our window to compete? And you got to push for it. Lots of other teams and franchises do it. And they say FM picks. And we don't care if our prospect pool is shallower.
Thought you were going to go with a different S word there.
Yeah, shallower than the shallow end. But this is an eye-opening exercise for us, Ross, trying to go through this and be like, oh, who could make it? And there's pretty much no one.
There's one guy who I think has an outside chance, and I think he's got an inside chance for next season, and that's Luca Beckman with Team Canada. The only problem is he's playing on the worst team in the Canadian Hockey League. Like,
yeah, poor guy.
They stink. He's won 4 games out of 21, and he has a shutout in 2 of his 4 wins.
Yeah,
that's how much goal support he's getting. They lost 12-1 2 games ago. Like, it's an untenable situation long term there. But for a goalie, he's facing over 30 shots a game, and he's learning how to bounce back. Like, this makes you mentally strong as a goaltender to be facing what he is. But I think that Josh Ravensbergen will have the inside track to be the 3rd goalie. He's a 1st-round pick, and they've got Ivan Kovic. Ivan Kovic's been an amazing goalie at the junior level. He was, I think, a 2nd-round pick or 3rd by Nashville this past year. And then you've got Carter George, who's your guy at the World Juniors this year, LA Kings draft pick there. So I don't think Luca Beckman will be there this year, but he does have that extra year of eligibility. The only other guys who are eligible in the Sens system are under 20-year-old forwards, Blake Vanek with USA. He's not making that team. And then 2 Russians. Russia doesn't have a team at the World Juniors, so that's not going to happen. And Eric Wallenius with Team Finland might, maybe, have an outside chance, but I wouldn't get your hopes up there. A lot of people saying, what about Carter Yakimchuk? Aren't draft plus 1 guys eligible? Well, because Yakimchuk was one of the older players in that draft class, he is not eligible to play. He turned 20 in October this year, or September, October, whatever, early enough. You have to be 19 or younger at the start of the tournament, so on Boxing Day. So no Carter Yakimchuk.
And he didn't even get invited to camp last year. So
yeah, but I mean, at least, hey, if you're going to be a loser, at least don't be alone. And there were a lot of players. Beckett Seneca wasn't invited to that camp, and he's in the NHL scoring goals.
Same with, I mean, yeah, Zane Parekh not really lighting up in the NHL, but also not invited. Like,
that was management stumbles all over the place with that Team Canada roster. So they got to figure it out. I think that's being named early next week. But yeah, just to keep an eye on the prospect pool. Yeah, it's a little shallow. Hey, Bruno Ejan would have been eligible, but I don't think Croatia is going to be there this year, unfortunately. But hey, we'll be watching Wisconsin this weekend. They're back in action, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them continue their journey towards the Frozen Four. They're taking on Notre Dame this weekend for a pair of games after being off last weekend. They're humming right now, though. Like 3 huge weekends in a row for them before this last off one. So I'm excited to see them play this weekend. I'm excited to see Belleville take on a divisional rival. Like, they need points so bad right now to the Belleville Sens. And to have Laval coming in after you only took 1 out of a possible 4 points against them in Laval just 2 weeks ago. You've got 2 games coming up at CAA Arena this weekend, and then you've got Rochester next. So 3 big games in the next week and a bit coming up for Belleville. So we'll leave it at that for today, and we'll chat with you in the postcast tomorrow, unless Pilsy has some final thoughts on today's show.
Well, I'll just piggyback. I was going to talk about Belleville. Belleville on a 4-game losing streak. Laval is on a 5-game winning streak and is 8-2 in their last 10, and they lead the division comfortably with a 15-6-0 record, 30 points, whereas Belleville has a 10-11-2 record, 22 points. So, like, you got your work cut out for you to try to stop this bleeding here. So I need Belleville to at least get one of these 2 games here this weekend.
I'll tell you what, though, Pilsy, I'll trade a winless Belleville weekend for Ottawa to get 2 points over the St. Louis Blues.
Deal. Done. Done.
Just get all the points. We want points on this show.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, we appreciate everyone. Lots of Spotify raps getting sent our way. Truly just humbling, to say the least. And we appreciate everybody who enjoys spending time with us here as we continue rolling on here with the season that has had number of ups, number of downs, but the thought process and the understanding of what the Senators are trying to do is still very clear, that this team believes that they can be a playoff team and do some damage when they get there. But let's hope that Shane Pinto's injury news becomes clearer and better, and that the Senators do get Artem Zub back in the lineup against the Blues. We'll discuss what happens in that game right after it. It might be a little bit later tomorrow. We should note that might be a little bit later of a postcast, but if you miss it live, you got plans Saturday, whatever the case may be, we'll have it for your audio podcast platforms and on YouTube by Sunday morning for sure. So you'll be able to catch up on what you missed over the weekend. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.